Hi there. I'm Dr. Marilyn Carroll. And for this week's article, I wanted to bring to you the article in a different way. Instead of the writing, I decided to make a video. And this week's article was inspired by the show that I'm loving right now, The Morning Show. And because I think it's a great example of leadership in modern times, as probably beforehand too. But I identify with so many things that's happening with this show, not for myself, but just from studying leadership and knowing a lot about that particular subject matter. And so I wanted to start with, I think what I'm about to present to you is a model for women's leadership. Aspiring to achieve ideal worker status and enacting a style somewhere between stereotypical connotations of the male or agentic style and communal behaviors, which are known for a woman's style of leadership. Women expend a great deal of emotional labor to find the perfect balance. And so, what should a woman be evaluated against during various times, whether it be a pandemic or any time, but just any time? What should she be really? What should the leadership characters represent for that woman? And so, I wanted to talk to you about that. Now, there women, we get blamed for so many things. It's tone, it's confidence, it's self-promotion, it's discipline. We get blamed. And so people with certain personality traits that are self-assured, ambitious, they go for it. They don't have time to make a lot of conversation. But as we'll see in some of the characters I point out from the morning show, and you're going to see more again what I'm talking about. So it's pretty late in the evening, but I wanted to get this done because I never know how my days are going to go. And since this is all free for everyone, but informational, I decided, hey, let me take a stab at this. So in this video, I'm going to start showing you my screen, which I made a PowerPoint for this whole presentation. And so let's go to my screen. Okay, as you'll see on my monitor, I'm talking to you about gender, and leadership. And I'm talking to you about the sandwich spread effect. Yes, I call it the sandwich spread effect. It's another leadership author called it sandwich. It comes from, I cannot remember the author who talked about sandwich, and I was like, aha, I remember it, but I can't find the author's name. But spread is me. I call it the sandwich spread effect. So it's agentic leadership styles versus communal, and where does it matter? How does it matter? So agentic is more the man, think man type, or male strength, masculinity, things of that nature. And then the communal type is more transformational leader, what we see as women, community, conversational. They build community, they talk a lot, they're caring. It reminds you of the mother at home. You know how our mothers at home really care? Well, the generation today that we're working with is so similar to that. They are accustomed to getting that comfort from home and being affirmed constantly from their parents, that now that is the same thing that we're experiencing in the workforce. And so managers and leaders are having to deal with various, it's not necessarily the leaders, but the managers, the day-to-day managers are having to deal with a lot of various leadership styles or people styles or gender styles, excuse me. So we got Generation X, we got Generation Y, we got the baby boom generation, which some of them are still in that workforce. And then we also have the Gen Z that's coming into the workforce now. So what is a manager to do? What is going on? And how do we get this started? So I'm going to start my slideshow now. So as I stated, excuse me, today I'm going to talk to you about gender and leadership and the sandwich spread effect. So in this, I'm going to talk to you about what is leadership, a new definition of how we should probably look at leadership, and studies that find gender agnostic, agentic, and that's Strine from 1973. Communal is Eagley and Carley, 2002. Differences in perception and how do you break the glass ceiling, leadership ability, and then that leads us to the sandwich effect. Yeah. And so leadership defined is, I like this from Harvey and Reiggio. They say the one size fits all definition of leadership is not possible because propensity or properties or normal terms or propensities of normal norms are relatively not true, opaque, meaning this particular situation may be different than another situation. So therefore, it would make more sense for leadership scholars to focus on revealing the moral and psychological properties of a leader than on trying to come up with the ultimate definition of a leader. And I really agree with them, even though I have worked on and studied leadership for years, and my PhD, I have a specialty in leadership. I agree with this author. It's 2011. I found his stuff when I was doing my dissertation, but I thought, nah, I'll kick that to the curb. I got my feelings on what is leadership. And so I didn't mess with it. And then it came back up recently. And I was like, yeah, I agree. I think I agree with that. And so the type of leader and the definition of that leadership depends on, it depends on the organizational needs and factors such as profits, losses, growth, the crisis at that moment, relational, community, financial, competitive, or even technology. These are things that organizations have to consider and when they look at their organization and see what's going on and see who they need to bring in. So let's look at The Morning Show. It's an Apple TV series, and it stars Jennifer Aniston and Reese Witherspoon. I love it, this show. I got hooked on it, and I ended up paying for Apple TV. I don't like paying for all this stuff. I don't even like watching TV. I got rid of cable. I don't have these things in my house necessarily because I don't have time to watch TV. As you guys know, I'm usually writing a lot or thinking a lot, praying, working. I work constantly. And so when I have downtime, I want to spend it with people, having fun. But this show, I look forward to it every Friday. These people are not paying me, but I look forward to this show every Friday. And I was waiting so long for it to get started back up, the new season, but it's on. So here goes. The opening song on the most recent episode was Muscle and Blood. I owe my soul to the company store. It was speaking of, to me, the leadership culture of that organization. It is the leadership culture there is of that company is very Machiavellism, dark leadership behaviors throughout, as far as how we got to the point we're at today. It is where the show lost its previous anchor and its previous CEO. It was because of dark leadership behaviors. And I think they're trying to transition from that to a more balanced, not have all the cutthroat. But I think there's still some people on the board that are very much still cutthroat, dark leadership behaviors, conningism. They have the traits they like to manipulate people, whatever means necessary to gain power, whatever is necessary to win. That's what they're about, and you see that, but we are enticed by that on TV. But I think sometimes we may be enticed by it in real life as well. And so Corey is the current CEO. He's narcissistic. And then we have Stella, who is the new president, who took Corey's place. And then Corey recruited Stella. And Corey is sinking because he's a power player. He's very transactional and very direct, but he's narcissistic. He is one of the bad. He got some dark leadership traits. And when the show first came on, it didn't seem like he had that many bad leadership traits. It seems like he could have been more of the better person, but the more he stays there and the higher his power has gotten, he is narcissistic. And Stella, who they brought in, she's a very transactional person and direct as well, but I wouldn't say that she's narcissistic. She's young generation. I think they said, she mentioned she was 34 years old. She had a company before they bought that company and then brought her in and made her president at UBA, and that's the company UBA. Stella is, I love her poker face all the time. You never know any emotions or feelings she's having. She looks the same, sun up to sundown throughout the show, and I love that because we never know what she's thinking. Just to look, they couldn't have found a better character to play Stella, and looking like this very transactional, direct person who's out to make a change, but she's mixed in with this culture that I don't think she realizes that it's a very dark leadership behaviors. There's nothing wrong with being transactional and direct. That's great. And we don't find that many women that are transactional and direct. So she has what it takes. She had to have what it takes to own that company that she was running for them to buy it from her. And so those skills that she brought, there are others there as well. She's intelligent, she's smart, smart and intelligent, maybe it's considered the same thing. She's informed, she knows what's going on, but a lot of people still don't see her as that leader or in this business. Now, Corey and Stella, they open with this scene on the elevator. And this is to give you an example of how narcissistic and Machiavellian and direct and transactional this company, UBA, is. And she opens with saying, "Hey, Stella." They get on the elevator and he says, Corey, the CEO says, "Hey, Stella, I have a problem with a question you asked me on yesterday." And she says, "Yeah, what's the question?" "You asked me if it was okay, and it doesn't matter if I am okay. This is a 200-meter freestyle. Feelings don't matter. Caring about other people limits your ability to make self-serving decisions. What is good for you is good for the company because the company owns both of us." I thought that says it all, because that is coming from the CEO of the organization talking to the president. He's guiding her. He was like, "Don't care about anybody. What you need to be doing is more so focused on achieving, winning. We need you to win, and we win at all costs." So he's teaching her about these dark leadership behaviors, and that's what's been going on at this company, I think, a long time. And so following that, we move to Alex, who's the head anchor, and Alex is played by Jennifer Aniston. She is the head anchor. She's been around there a long time. Her partner was the other co-anchor. He was probably her best friend, as we saw in one of the episodes. She talked to him about that. And Alex's character is a typical high agentic leader. She's narcissistic and transactional. Yes, she is narcissistic. I don't know if she was to start with, but this is the traits and leadership styles that she's picked up from her coaching from the other people. And when the show first came on, they were about to fire her because they didn't feel as though she had what it takes to bring the viewers to the show. But after she made some power moves to show, hey, now I'm not this little wimp. Let me get rid of these emotions I have going around here, even though it may have been against her will. Let me go more into what I saw really going on here and act like those males act, or the previous head anchor act, Mitch, who was the head anchor. Let's go in and see how that was. And so Chip, who is the prior producer of the morning show, he was fired, and he was the company scapegoat. Somebody had to fall, so it was weak Mitch. Chip, weak Chip, because Chip didn't have the backbone. You can't tell what Chip really is because he goes back and forth. He's almost like I see a lot of people who are timid, don't know which way to go, afraid to make a move, always hiding behind everybody else and not doing the things that they need to take care of or do. Anyway, let's move to Bradley. Bradley character is the one that came in and made a change. She was pulled in by Aniston by saying, "You know what? Corey, you want to bring somebody on here who don't even have what it takes, but she was a firecracker out there, and the people loved her. Social media loved her so much, and they decided to bring her in, and they kept her. She had never made that status before, which a lot of people do get jobs. Never interviewed really for it before, never applied for it, but they get it because social media fame, they rise up, and here goes, let's go. But she was experienced and she had some training, but she is nowhere near the cutthroat environment she has gotten herself into. Now, Bradley is your typical communal leader, meaning she has skill sets that are transformational, relational. She's strong-willed, but she has that relational, transformational community feel, and that's what she does. She changes things. So when you have a problem like they had at the show, you need somebody who's relational, transformational, and communal, meaning they bring the community together. They're about the community, and she gives those vibes. That's what she's about, the community. Now, yes, both of these ladies are very attractive, but attractiveness won't be enough. You have to have these other skill sets and traits in order to make it in some of these particular environments. But because of her strong will, they knew she could possibly make it on the show. But the longer she stays there on that morning show, the more changes we're going to see from Bradley as they transition, remold her, restructure her. And it's going to be interesting. This show is interesting. So if you're not watching it, please do so. Now, Mia, she is the African-American on the show, and she's the current morning show producer. Typical. You bring Mia in, or another woman who's, she's decisive and directive, but she's a relational person at sometimes. She works based on relationships. As a matter of fact, she got to where she is because of relationships. She and the previous anchor had a menage a trois, just as Alex and the previous anchor had a menage a trois. They had these relationships, and they from those relationships, they got promoted. And the show does talk about this, and we have to, ladies, we got to go with this. Now we got to realize this. There are things happening where people do have these relationships that gets them to the next level. Man, whether you know it or not, whether you take it or not. As a matter of fact, there's one scene in here, and then I'm going to jump over to the next, where on this morning show, the previous anchor, Mitch, dies in a car accident. And Alex, Jennifer Aniston, goes over to his house to let his wife know. And his wife says, now, thank you. But, and she asks the wife, is there anything I can do for you? You know, let me know, and I'll be happy to help out. His wife was Paige, and Paige says, listen, woman, I know you had an affair with my husband. I know you were one of the ones, and you didn't even have to be. Now, some of them people, they didn't know any better. They didn't know what hit them, but you knew what hit you. And that's how you knew that this girl was narcissistic, even more so, and that she let these things get to her. So this is the cast, and I think we can see a lot of what I'm about to talk about on these next few pages from them. So studies that find gender differences are directive and goal-oriented leaders are more effective during extreme events. So I talked to you about Mia and the other and what she was like. Financial, competitive, or technological leadership is linked to autocratic leadership. And then critical events are linked to directive or transactional, sorry about the spelling, leadership. And then crisis management and relational challenges, say, like they were having at UBA show, those are linked to transformational communal leadership styles. And these are important because directive and goal-oriented and financial, sorry about that, financial and the others, critical events, most of these, except for the bottom one, are the first three are considered man-needed leaders. The man likes, the mindset is on the man, that we need a man to do these things, not a woman. But when it comes to crisis management or relational challenges or transformational type situations, we choose women for that because they have been known to be able to do that. And so that's why we probably see only a small percentage of women that have made it to the C-suite, because a lot of them don't have the other three types of leadership characteristics as the men do in order to make those things change and earn a profit. So what is this glass ceiling breaker, the sandwich in the spread? Well, the sandwich in the spread is the meat I call leadership, and that's the sandwich. That's the part of the sandwich. It's strong will, autonomous, nurturing, democratic, warm, intelligent, collaborative, helpful. Most women have these styles. And then the bread is crisis financial. How you put that, you got the sandwich, the meat. But before I go to the bread, I'm gonna come down here to the spread. So I spread here's the bread. Crisis financial, which one is it? Competitive, technology, autocratic, transactional, communal, transformational, task-oriented, or critical events. So these are the types of bread I may need to put this meat between this bread. And so what I spread it with is I want to spread the bread with self-confidence, persistence, resilience, empathetic, or decisiveness or directness. Which spread do I need to go with this bread based on the type of bread that I have? And that's going to determine the type of meat that I bring in, the type of bread I have, and the type of spread. Now we have the toppings. Usually you have lettuce and tomato, onions, pickles, things of that nature. Well, my toppings are desires, responsibility, well-informed, cooperative, consistent, competence. These are the spreads I need. Sometimes I may need all of these spreads, but in most cases, I need one or two of these spreads to go with the toppings to go with the spread. I need all the spreads. So I get a little bit of everything, but I may need more of some, depends on what the situation is with this bread that I have. And that's how we want to break this glass ceiling. So let's continue to move on. So differences in perceptions of agentic leadership. And think leader, think man. This is agentic. So aggressive, ambitious, direct. They're dominant, autocratic, responsible, stable, decisive. They're well-informed and masculine personalities. These are the men. I'm sorry about the spelling. So these are the men that we're talking about. So let's move to the next one. So what are the differences in perception for communal leadership? And these are women. They have if there's a relational problem, we choose a woman. If there's the other challenge, we choose a man. So usually a woman is chosen for cooperative, collaborative, empathetic, helpful, democratic, gentle, caring, nurturing. They're well-informed as well, and friendliness that they have. And if they act out of any of these orders here, then we got a problem with them. If they go too much on the agentic traits, that's a challenge for many women who can't stomach them, okay? Jen Aston in this particular series, she is a lot like the other things, and I don't think many people, as you watch the show, really like her that well because she brings out the more male dominant traits. So how do we break the glass ceiling? To achieve the ideal worker status, enact a style of leadership, communal, that's a balance of communal and agentic behaviors. Women are good at finding the perfect balance, but they have to know what balance there is that they're looking for. Perseverance is very good. Strength, they need strength. That means if you know the strength level you're going to need in order to accomplish something, you can't go into it not understanding your strengths and where your strengths lie and what things you need to strengthen in order to get that. I know sometimes I'm a positive leadership person, and I say, you know, work on your strengths, not on your weaknesses. But this is not a situation. If you got the weaknesses in the wrong area, it's not going to work. Emotional requirements. Now, emotional intelligence become a very important factor here, as well as psychological stamina. You have to have both. You got to have the emotions that you can control and go with this. You got to be a Stella, as Stella didn't have much of her face going on there, but at the same time, when it comes to going up and getting respect, but a lot of people don't respect Stella, as you'll see. But the man who has that he has a smile, even on his face, Corey does, when he's talking, and you just never know. Stella needs to, she's okay. I like that she, for the show, that she doesn't have a face, but you gotta show people some caring emotions, no matter who you are. So, but keep the emotions in check, like Jen Aniston does in front of people. She will not break down throughout the show. We don't see her breaking down. Whereas Bradley, we see her breaking down quite a bit during the show, but that's okay. She'll get stronger. And the psychological stamina, we have to have these. So leadership ability, know the environment and the culture. You have to know what environment you're working or going into and the culture of that organization. So financial, technology, goal-oriented, competitive, directive, autocratic, task-oriented, transformational versus transactional, profit versus sales, persistence, helpful. Then you have self-confidence, desires responsibility, being well-informed, intelligent, use it, logical when needed, consistent, competent, communal only when needed, skilled at negotiations, own it like you own it, own it. Now, a woman's leadership, a model for women's leadership, think sandwich spread. And this is sandwich, is spelled sandwich if you go down, and that's where we get this sandwich spread from. The sandwich, know how to make that sandwich. As I said on a slide before, strong will, autonomous, nurturing, be democratic, desire responsibility. Let people know you want that responsibility. Warm and friendly, be well informed about what's going on too. Intelligent, you gotta practice, you gotta have that intelligence. And most women do, that's trying to break that glass ceiling, are very intelligent. Competent, cooperative, collaborative, and consistent, helpful. That's the sandwich. Now the spread is self-confident, pleasant and persistent, resilient and responsible, empathetic, yet assertive and autonomous, decisive and directive. That's the spread we're looking for. So back again, the ceiling breaker is the sandwich and the spread. And knowing how to apply the sandwich, the meats of the sandwich, the bone, the protein of it, the meat of it. What's the meat? The meat are those things that I talked about, that's the sandwich. And the bread, the meat within the sandwich. The bread is the crisis or the situation that you are coming into, and knowing which of your skill sets, which of your meats you need to use to feed that bread, or to give that bread the type of taste and flavor that it needs to be appealing and appetizing. And your spreads are and toppings are going to go in and out. You got to know which spread to use when, and which toppings to use, and how to use those toppings at the bottom. And that's breaking the ceiling breaker, the sandwich and the spread, along with the toppings. And that's it. So the morning show, as well as the others that I talked about, are the items that we have. Yes, I am not giving you an article like that this week. I'm giving you a video. And I hope you enjoy the video. And I'd love to hear your comments about what you thought. I'd love to hear your comments about the morning show if you're watching that. They have groups out there that you can join, and I would encourage you to join them. I talk a lot in those, not a lot, but I do go back and forth. I'm a fan of both Jennifer and Reese, as well as I'm becoming a fan of Mia and the writers and the others. It's a great show. And I hope they don't mind that I use this in my example and talking about leadership and breaking the glass ceiling. That's it. Thank you so much for stopping by to see me. And again, I'd love to know your comments.